You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. This is an incredibly hectic time. A week ago, it was, just look at what the last 14 days or so have been like. From finishing the regular season while polishing off recruiting for the early signing period. You finished the game against Oklahoma on Saturday night. Boom. Wednesday, your dead period Sunday. Wednesday, early signing period. Monday, portal window opens. And now you are full on roster retention and recruiting out of the portal. So just nonstop. And oh, by the way, Thursday, today, LSU at the practice field for the first time getting ready for a bowl game. So an incredibly busy time. But this period right here, the next 3 weeks leading up to LSU and Baylor in the Texas Bowl, I also believe is a massively important period. I am not going to be so disingenuous as to sit here and try to sell you on the importance of the Texas Bowl because it is objectively not important. When LSU went and played Purdue in the, was it the Citrus Bowl or the Cheez-It, whatever it was a couple of years ago, the Cheez-It Bowl, whatever it was. Aiden O'Connell didn't play. Everybody from Purdue opted out. You were playing a JV team. It didn't matter. It didn't matter a lick. Last year, that game against Wisconsin, the result of that game, Malik Neighbors set the career receiving record and then took off his pads and sat the rest of the game. Shout out, all good. Dudes opt out. These games don't matter anymore. They're glorified exhibitions. But the piece that is massively important, in my opinion, are the dozen practices you get in advance of the bowl. Because with all of the opt-outs and the NFL draft declarations and all of the roster turnover, this is an opportunity for guys that are going to be asked to play a key role next year to start with that role now. It's basically a second spring practice. I'll come to this game here in a second, and everything Brian Kelly had to say about it. But think of it this way. A year ago, Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman, opts out of the bowl game. Shout out. Garrett Nussmeier, who had been sitting for 3 years, had the opportunity for a dozen bowl practices to take every rep with the ones, to go lead the huddle, to be the voice in the huddle, to be the man and everybody knew it, to work on timing with receivers. Remember Joe Sloan? Mike Denbrock had left. Joe Sloan was calling plays in the bowl game. All of those things. Then to actually go get a dress rehearsal in a bowl game. All before spring. So by the time you got to spring, it was like, okay, I already done this. Everybody knows I'm the man. And then you get to fall camp, and it's like, it feels like you've been doing it for a year because you almost have. That's the value. It's the bowl practices. So Brian Kelly did give some opening thoughts on this Baylor Bears team that LSU is going to face on New Year's Eve.
I also want to congratulate Baylor and certainly Dave Aranda and the success that they've had at Baylor this season. I think they've won 6 in a row, playing as well as anybody in the country. So, familiar with Dave, a great football coach. He was part of the LSU championship team. So, a lot of familiarity here and should make for a great game between two teams that are looking to continue momentum going into 2025.
Aranda was very much on the hot seat coming into this year. That great, in year 2 at Baylor, they win the league, win the Sugar Bowl. Then he went 6 wins, 3 wins, came into this season squarely on the hot seat. They started 2-4. They had the unconscionable loss to Colorado where they allowed the Hail Mary to force overtime, and then they fumbled into the end zone in overtime to a walk-off forced fumble by Travis Hunter. It went out of the back of the end zone. But they turned it around, and they won 6 straight, and they're 8-4. And Aranda feels like he's on a little more stable ground now. But we will always, of course, revere Dave Aranda. Even though Brian Kelly wasn't here, he acknowledges he was kind of part of the greatest team ever.
he is thought of in a very positive manner. I think his personality, how he treated people, he left here with, certainly he left on, a high note, right? I mean, they won a national championship, but the way he treated people, look, in everything we do in life, it's how you leave, right? And I think the feelings that many people that I've run into feel as though he's a man of character, integrity, class, and that seems to resonate anytime his name is brought up. So, and he's a really good defensive coordinator. I mean, that helps, right? I mean, those two things, your work and then away from work, people talk in positive terms about Dave.
It'll be interesting because as Dave Aranda is known as a great defensive coordinator, great defensive mind, Baylor this year has been a better offensive team than defensive. In many ways, LSU and Baylor kind of mirror each other. For what it's worth, LSU nationally has a better scoring defense than Baylor. Like, think about that for a second. This Blake Baker defense, this defense we just saw from LSU, ranked higher than Dave Aranda's Baylor defense. Opt-outs are going to be a huge part of this. Who is actually going to be out there and play? So we already know for LSU the guys that have declared: Mason Taylor, Will Campbell, Emory Jones. They've declared for the draft. You don't anticipate those guys playing. There's going to be some other important decisions to make. Some of your veteran guys, your seniors, who this would be their last opportunity to put on the uniform again before going off to the NFL. But how many of those guys are going to play? Brian Kelly was asked, again, this was Wednesday, so the day before LSU hit the practice field. This is Brian Kelly being asked about bowl participation for his team.
We'll have some of the veterans that will play, and some have certainly made a decision that it's in their best interest not to play in the game. And, we try to provide as much information and I think we're pretty detailed and pretty transparent in terms of what we think is best for each one of our players. Here's what I know. The guys that will be fielding for this team will be 100% committed to getting a positive outcome. They'll be playing because they want to be playing. And that's really the most important thing, right? I mean, that you have a group of players that want to play for LSU and want to play to the standard.
When I look at the spots on the field that could be most impacted, either positive or negative, and remember, I already told you that I'm not really concerned so much with the outcome of the game. I know that sounds ridiculous, and Herm Edwards, you play to win the game, and that's true. I think everybody that's going to go out there and play is going to play really hard and play to win, and you may have some veterans play. But, for example, on Thursday, Sage Ryan entered the portal. That opens up a spot, in theory, for a young guy like Deshaun Spears to probably get out there and start this bowl game. And Spears is one of those guys who, I certainly talked about in fall camp glowingly. And I told you, he looks the part. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Deshaun Spears, by the end of the season, had become a starter. And it actually kind of worked in reverse for Spears. He played a lot early in his true freshman season, but then he saw his playing time really decrease as the season went along. But that's a guy who, with Sage Ryan not there, very likely gets an opportunity to give it a go and have an opportunity to get out there and start. And safety is certainly a position that LSU is looking at in the transfer portal. They've already been connected to 3 players in the transfer portal. So this is an opportunity to say, okay, is Spears a guy that's going to be one of your starters for next year? You just look at his snap count. You had 2 snaps against Nichols, then had 28, against USC, 28 against Nichols, 44 against South Carolina, 37 against UCLA, 37 against South Alabama. And that was the point in the season where Brian Kelly said, we got to stop rolling guys in and out. We got to decide who our best guys are. After that, there was only 1 game the rest of the way where Spears played double-digit snaps. It was 13 snaps against A&M. 3 against Ole Miss, 5 against Arkansas, 8 against Alabama, 1 snap against Vanderbilt, didn't play against Oklahoma. So again, played a ton early, and they decided to go with the veteran guys late. Well, now Sage Ryan in the portal, this is an opportunity for a guy like Spears to go get 12 practices with the ones and start this bowl game to see how he does. Like that's one of those things that I think is significant. One more from Brian Kelly. On the offensive side, the most obvious spot, and I understand the offensive line, which I already kind of went through that. Even if your veterans play awesome, meaning Frazier and Dellinger, but if they don't, you still have bodies there that you feel like can play this game. And if they play great, because at tackle, Tyree Adams can play left tackle and Weston Davis can play right tackle. And what an opportunity for those two young players to start and get all these reps. But really, you're losing 3 of your top 4 pass catchers, and obviously one of them being Mason Taylor. And then you've seen also Kamori and Pimpton hit the portal. Like, you don't have a scholarship tight end on the roster. So what do you do being down receivers and tight ends?
You have to be able to, get your team ready. And if you have to make some adjustments in terms of, what you do with your scheme, then you make those adjustments. And we're prepared to do so. Our offense is about the players, not the plays. And so, if we don't have a particular player, we get rid of that play and we highlight the players within the scheme. So we'll just do it a little bit differently, but we'll still be able to get the job done.
You could move Trey'Dez Green back to tight end. Bo Bordelon, who's kind of been one of those jumbo tight ends anyway, could help you in blocking situations at tight end. But at receiver, man, what a great opportunity for Aaron Anderson. We'll see if Kyron Lacey plays. We don't know. If he does, great. But if not, what an opportunity for Aaron Anderson, for Xavier Thomas, for Chris Hilton to continue to develop and emerge, provided he's coming back. So you're going to see some different faces featured, and that's the benefit. It's not the game. Of course, you want to win and all that sort of stuff, but it's more about these dozen practices where you're going to get so many with the deck cleared, with guys hitting the portal, other guys leaving for the draft. Other guys have the opportunity now to step up to practice, to get reps, to get focused on. And LSU's got to maximize this for a springboard into spring football. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.